that may indicate the fire. A criminal investigation is...
The Cabin Factory is an organization which specializes in creating hyper-realistic horror cabins intended for theme parks and movies. Due to a recent legal dispute claiming that the cabins are actually haunted in real life, which could be dangerous, the organization has started hiring professionals to inspect each cabin to ensure their safety and that they are indeed not haunted. The player has to inspect each cabin and identify if there is any anomaly, whether minor or major, and report back to the organization for further investigation and analysis. We assume the role of Greta, an elderly lady who gets instructed through telecoms and automated recordings to perform her duties, not having any contact with any real person. The automated recording in the elevator mentions how Greta accepts all terms and conditions which might be updated without notice, making it sound very shady. Greta gets off on the 8th floor of the building with a simple note left behind. It reads the instructions: inspect the whole cabin. If haunted, turn back immediately and press danger. If safe, press clear. Any movement means the cabin is haunted. With these simple instructions, the new employee, Greta, is thrown into work for her first day with no supervision or shadowing, just simply left all alone in what will be the most dangerous and terrifying job that she has ever had. The first life-size cabin is sent through the conveyor belt and door, with wind sound effects and lighting making it feel and seem like a very real cabin in the middle of the forest. The atmospheric lighting and the dark inside makes a creepy feeling take over Greta's body. The first thing that she notices is a creepy painting of a woman who will be known as the Mother. There's an old school fireplace and then a super realistic wax figure of a man sitting on a table who will be known as the Father. The old school furnishing and design of the cabin makes it seem to be having the theme of early 1900s. Going up to the first floor, Greta finds a hyper realistic wax figure of a small boy having his face covered with a cloth while sitting down. This boy will become known as Hansel, and of course this will be a model of a cabin in the story of Hansel and Gretel. In the beginning, not many anomalies can be seen, but the dark atmosphere and sinister aura is undeniable that there is something wrong with the production of these cabins. After the first cabin is cleared, Greta enters the second cabin, where the wax figures within the cabin come to life. The movements are minor, but the horror is unfathomable. The painting of the Mother is seen moving and watching Greta wherever she moves. Hansel is seen twitching and moving his legs while being seated and having the cloth over his face. This leaves the Father, who in an unsettling manner stays still, with Greta not being able to contain herself but to run away as she feels the Father will move any second, who could easily overpower her. She leaves the cabin and reports it to have anomalies. The third cabin comes in through the conveyor belt and we get a backstory to what really happened and the possibility of how these cabins could be haunted.
The brutal fire that burned a family alive took place in an isolated cabin in the woods. 2 bodies were found calcinated on Sunday evening after 3 hikers noticed a huge column of smoke and immediately called 911. When emergency crews arrived just minutes later, the flames were still burning. According to our sources, a family of 4 lived in the cabin, a mother, a father, and their 2 children. The police confirmed the bodies found on the scene belonged to the parents. The 2 children, a 10-year-old little girl and her 6-year-old brother, have not yet been found in the surrounding areas. The chief of the fire department announced the search operation will continue and said she has hopes of finding them alive. It is still unclear how the parents got trapped inside their own cabin, but the police have found clues that may indicate the fire was intentional. A criminal investigation is ongoing.
A family of 4 lived in an isolated cabin in the woods, which caught fire with the charred bodies of the parents being found, while the bodies of the 10-year-old girl and 6-year-old boy still remain undiscovered. This is directly correlated with the figures within the horror cabins produced by the organization, which seem to be possessing the souls of the family and hunting the cabins. It's unclear if the figures are even meant to be here, or if they are the vengeful souls of the family. After all, it seems the fire was intentional and someone murdered them, trapping the parents inside, which is a mystery to how they didn't escape. Entering a new cabin, Greta sees the little girl hiding, telling her in a flashback style that everything will be alright, but they need to escape.
Everything is gonna be fine, but we have to get away from them.
This seems to have been something the 10-year-old girl said to her brother, Hansel, as if the parents were abusive and they wanted to run away from them. The backstory is slowly revealed as Greta enters new cabins. In another cabin, Greta manages to go to the basement where she sees a wax figure of the mother from the painting, punishing the 6-year-old Hansel, while she has a monstrous and menacing face, representational of the horror that she showed to the kids. In the basement bathroom, Greta sees herself as the 10-year-old girl while looking at the reflection of the mirror, as if seeing herself in the shoes of the little girl, when she sees a set of carved tally markings from the children depicting the horrifying secrets that Greta and Hansel were badly abused by the parents, at times locked in the bathroom in the basement, hence why they planned to escape. The reports of the fire's mystery starts to unravel, as if the kids burned the cabin down with the parents trapped inside while they escaped, and that is why their bodies were never found. For the elderly cabin inspector, seeing herself as Greta while she has a name tag of Greta herself might have a dark reason. That the employee is the little girl herself, who is now grown up and has found herself back in the cabin that she once escaped. This incident seems to have happened 50 or 60 years ago, if the current Greta is in her 60s or 70s. The reason to why she is experiencing this looping horror with the past incidents theatrically displaying themselves could be because of Greta's psyche rather than the cabins actually being haunted. It might all be in Greta's head, as they are very specific to her own story and the trauma that she carries with herself. All of a sudden, the door to the locked bathroom starts banging, with the mother on the outside manipulating and gaslighting Greta that she cannot leave the house. She even uses Hansel as a collateral that he will be abandoned and they will do bad things to him when she leaves. That is, of course, after they learned Greta wants to leave the cabin.
What do you think you'll find outside? Absolutely nothing. You want to leave, Greta? That's totally fine. But your brother will stay here. And he will not be happy when he hears you abandoned him. Leave and abandon your poor mother.
The reflection of the mirror confirms that the protagonist is in fact the little girl from many years ago, as she sees herself in the mirror holding the door and bracing it, replacing the body of the little girl, being very scared of the mother. The protagonist seems to be trapped in some sort of purgatory, suffering from the past, or it could be all in her mind. It seems the past and the cabin never left her, still tormenting and punishing her till now. She still carries the pain, fear, and trauma that she inherited from her parents. That's when the door to the bathroom opens and the wax figure of the mother punishing Hansel comes to life and chases after her. Greta runs as fast as she can and leaves, pressing the danger button, which resets the cabin and brings another one. After several anomalies with the parents becoming hostile and chasing after Greta, she relives and observes the events of how the fire started and how the parents were burned. She sees the parents trapped inside the cabin while the fire is blazing and consuming everything. When the children, Greta and Hansel, are standing outside the cabin and witnessing the cabin burning down to the ground with the parents trapped inside, screaming and begging for their lives. The environment outside of the cabin fully changes as well. Instead of the warehouse industrial look, being actually in the middle of the woods with muddy and murky grounds. Hansel has his frog plushie, while Greta being the mastermind behind the arson, holding Hansel's hand, hopeful of a better future free from the abusive parents. Eventually, managing to inspect and identify all the anomalies correctly, Greta is congratulated and sent home. With all this pain and horror. While at home, her closet opens on its own, which reveals to be the very same cabin that she tried to escape many years ago and what she faced in the workplace. This displays how she cannot escape this horrible memory, no matter what she tries to do. The cabin lives in her mind rent-free for eternity, and the visions and experiences that she had in the workplace could have been completely due to her psyche and her imagination. She lives in a one-bedroom apartment all by herself, with Hansel's future remaining unknown to what came of him and how he ended up. For Greta, even as an old adult woman, she still suffers from the trauma and the past, and sees herself as the scared little child tormented by her parents many years ago. She decides to close the door to the closet and leave the memory behind, but it just shows how it constantly makes her suffer, and she can never escape it. And that is it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.